السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعزائي طلبة وطالبات الفرقة الأولى شعبة اللغة الإنجليزية، أهلا وسهلا ومرحبا بكم في فيديو جديد لشرح من سكاشن مادة مايكرو ايكونومكس. إن شاء الله في الفيديو ده هنتكلم عن إزاي بنرسم البرودكشن بوسيبيليتيز فرونتير. تمام يا شباب؟ نبدأ الأول كده بإن احنا نحط الاسامبشنز بتاعتنا علشان نرسم البرودكشن بوسيبيليتي فرونتير أو منحنى إمكانيات الإنتاج. أول اسامبشن عندي ألا وهو the economy is efficient. يبقى أول شرط عندي أو أول assumption عندي الافشنسي، إن أنا بقدر أستخدم كل الموارد اللي عندي. ده الافشنسي بتاع الايكونومكس. نمبر 2 الاسامبشن التاني there are a fixed number of resources. number of resources are fixed or given number that is not to be changed over the time horizon. 3 fixed technology. As long as we are simplifying the situation, we cannot relax any of these assumptions. Number 4 only two goods or two commodities. That's for simplification. Only two commodities are available to be produced. We either produce one or B, one of them, or we make a trade-off bit among both of them. So to draw a production possibility frontier, we assume that we have a fixed number or limited resources. Suppose we have 100 units of money, and we have two goods which are civilian or military goods. We either choose to produce civilian or military goods using our resources, or we can use our resources to produce a combination of both of these goods. For drawing the production possibility frontier, we firstly suppose that the unit of civilian goods would cost me about 5 units of money, and the cost of military goods would cost me about 10 units of money. So to produce or to use our resources fully to produce civilian goods, or we can say that we're fully employing our resources in order to produce civilian goods, we would make 100 units of money divided by the cost of one civilian goods, which is 5 units of money, would equal 20. So if we fully employ our resources or our fixed resources in order to produce only civilian goods, we would reach out for only 20 units of civilian goods, while we are not making any of military goods, zero military goods. On the other hand, to produce or to fully employ our resources to produce military goods, we would result in or reach out for 100 units of money divided by a cost of 10 units of money per each unit of military goods, which equal 10 units of military goods. So the maximum amount of military goods that could be produced using our full resources or our full capacity of production would be 10 units. Let's draw this axis one more time. Civilian goods, military goods. The maximum amount of civilian goods would be 20. The maximum amount of military goods would be 10. Actually, there is no such case that you would fully dedicate your resources in order to produce one of the goods. You either heavily produce one good with a little bit of the other one, or the other side you produce a heavy or heavily produce the other good with a little bit of the one that were heavily produced in the first case. So matching these points, which we can name A and B, you will obtain a production possibility boundary which describes the capabilities of the economy or the limits of the economy. الاقتصاد يقدر ينتج لحد فين. مفيش عادة في الواقع ان حد بينتج civilian goods بس او military goods بس، لا هو بينتج خليط ما بين الاتنين. الخليط ده بحدده ازاي؟ عن طريق كيرف باود اوتورد. ليه؟ يعني ليه الكيرف منحني للخارج مش ثابت؟ ده هنشرحه دلوقتي مع فكرة الاوبورتيونيتي كوست اللي بيعبر عنها البرودكشن possibility frontier. So at point E and P the resources are fully employed. عند النقطة E والنقطة B المجتمع بيستخدم الموارد بتاعته كاملة. طيب عظيم. ايه اللي بيحصل بعد كده؟ اللي بيحصل ان انا ما بنتجش عند بي او بي زي ما اتفقنا يا شباب، انا بنتج عند نقطة على الكيرف اي بي سي دي اي اف. تمام؟ اي نقطة على الكيرف any of these points describes the full usage of our fixed resources. طيب انا عايز افرق دلوقتي ما بين 3 مواقع. inside FGH inside the boundary, outside the boundary I. Consider we are the points E, P, C, D, E, F are totally the same or describing or representing the same idea. So we can compare between I, H and D. We have 3 points. Each point is located in a different location. Number 1, point H and point D can be produced or representing an amount of production that could be attained, while I is not attainable, representing an amount of production that cannot be obtained because it's outside our limits or our capabilities of producing. So we can make number 1 difference that I unattainable while H and D is attainable. We can produce either H or D. So what is the difference between H and D? The difference between H and D is that D uses our 4 resources. So it describes our efficient allocation of scarce resources. Okay, while H is representing inefficiency. What do you mean by efficiency and inefficiency? بمنتهى البساطة يا شباب، تخيل ان انت عندك عامل في المصنع المفروض عدد ساعات العمل بتاعته يوميا 8 ساعات. حضرتك عند الدي بتشغله 8 ساعات لكن عند الاتش بتشغله 6. فده معناه ايه؟ معناه ان انت عند الدي efficient بتاخد منه كل المجهود اللي تقدر تاخده، انما عند الاتش انت بتشغله 6 بس، فده inefficiency، او بمعنى ادق ده معناه ان حضرتك ما بتشغلوش كفاية، لسه في طاقة انتاجية مهدرة. طب تعال نشوف ده على المثال بتاعنا السيفيليان والميليتري جودز. For points inside the curve to best describe how they are representing in efficiency, suppose that is our production possibility frontier. Suppose we have such point located this way, H. At point H, we produce about 2 half points of C and 5 points of M. 2 half points, 2.5 units of civilian goods and 5 units of military goods. Suppose that you want to find out if this amount of production is using efficiently your resources or not. Extending such line would mean that you are increasing military goods without affecting any of civilian goods, which means that you have an idle resources that are not used fully, which means that we can produce to the point 9 supposedly. بمنتهى البساطة أنا دلوقتي لما مديت الخط بدل 5 بقى 9 ملتري، هل أنا ضحيت بحاجة من السي؟ لا خالص. فده معناه إن أنا ما استهلكتش موارد. تمام؟ ده بينقلنا لنقطة تانية ألا وهي ال opportunity cost. In order to produce 1 more units of military goods, you have to sacrifice units of civilian goods. Suppose we are operating at such a point on production possibility frontier, which is A. So, in order to increase military goods from this point to this point, you find yourself sacrificing this amount of C. In order to return to the original points, you find yourself increasing C by reducing the amount of M, which means, or which is a result of the assumption that we have a fixed resources. Either you employ them to produce civilian goods or produce military goods. In order to employ them for one option, you have to sacrifice the other. So, علشان أزود إنتاجي من الM لازم أضحي بسي، علشان أزود إنتاجي من السي لازم أضحي بالM. Returning back to our original curve which describes an efficiency، بتلاقي نفسك حضرتك انت عشان تزود الام من 5 ل 9 بتلاقي نفسك ما ضحتش اطلاقا باي حاجه من السي. فده معناه ايه؟ معناه ان الموارد بتاعتي كانت مهدره، ما كانش شغاله تشغيل مظبوط. طب نجرب على الحاله الثانيه بتاع السي. Suppose you increased the production of C to be about 4.75 units. You find yourself at 0.5 producing 5 military goods. In the original point you were producing 5 military goods. So the amount of produced military goods is not affected by the increase in producing civilian goods. Okay. In order to describe economic growth, one more thing. عايز اتكلم الاول قبل الايكونوميك جروث، عايز اتكلم عن الاوبورتيونيتي كوست. الاوبورتيونيتي كوست يا جماعه بمنتهى البساطه فيها حاجه زي ما حلينا في الام سي كيو والترو اور فولس، اللي هيشوف الفيديو الثاني هيلاقي في حاجه اسمها الباوت اوتورد برودكشن بوسيبيليتي فرونتير اللي هو عامل الحناءه خفيفه للاعلى، وفي الكونستنت او الفيكسد برودكشن بوسيبيليتي فرونتير اللي هو كده. ده عباره عن قطعه مستقيمه. ايه الفرق ما بين ده وده؟ الفرق بمنتهى البساطه، تخيل هنا ان انت بتنتج civilian goods اهو وبتنتج military goods. تمام؟ بيقول لي ان الاوبورتيونيتي كوست هي عباره عن ان انت عشان تزود اوبشن لازم تنقص التاني. طب عظيم، اعمل ايه دلوقتي؟ عايز اشرح الكلام ده والله بمنتهى البساطه. انا عندي السي هنا اهو بنتج مثلا 3 سي و2 ام. عظيم. علشان ازود الام اخليها 3 بلاقي نفسي بضحي بواحده سي لا 2. علشان ازودها اخليها 4 بلاقي نفسي بضحي بواحده سي وبنتج 1. تمام؟ الانتقال من نقطة 3 لنقطة 2 زودني 1، والانتقال من نقطة 2 لنقطة 1 زودني 1. فده بنسميه حاجة اسمها constant opportunity cost أو constant slope. الميل بتاعي ثابت على مدار الكيرف كله، الميل بتاعي ثابت. طيب عظيم. ده كده مش بيمثل البرودكشن possibility frontier، ليه؟ لأن بمنتهى البساطة البرودكشن possibility frontier powered outward. powered outward ازاي؟ ده معناه ان الاوبورتيونيتي كوست بتتغير على مدار المنحنى كله. يعني لما نقول مثلا civilian الميليتري، لو احنا هنا السيفيليان بننتج مثلا 10 والميليتري بتنتج 3. عظيم. علشان ازود الميليتري لحد مثلا نقطة زي 4 مثلا، تلاقي نفسك شوف ضحيت بقد ايه، ضحيت بحوالي 6، اللي هو نزلت من 10 ل4 عشان تزود وحدة واحدة من الميليتري جودز. يبقى نقول مرة تانية يا شباب، in order to increase military goods by 1 units you have to sacrifice 6 units of civilian commodities or civilian goods, which means that opportunity cost is not constant over the production possibility frontier. And if it's constant, it would never be a production possibility frontier because it describes a fixed constant or fixed opportunity cost, which is not realistic. Describing why it is not realistic is far beyond our specialization here. We are talking about far beyond our subject here. النقطة دي مش هنتعمق فيها قوي عشان من توهش الناس معانا. تمام. بعد كده بنبدأ نتكلم على economic growth. Suppose that you are relaxing one assumption of our assumptions. الاسامبشن بتاعتنا زي ما قلناها يا شباب كانت عبارة عن ايه؟ ان انا عندي economy is efficient, number of resources are fixed technology, only 2 commodities. For number 2 and number 3 assumptions, if we relax one of them, which means that our resources are fixed, suppose our resources increased. Fixed technology, suppose we have advanced technology. Increasing resources or advancing technology would have the same effect on production possibility frontier. Our production possibility frontier is C and M, one more time, is located originally here. So with relaxing the assumption of advanced technology of fixed resources through increasing resources or achieving more advanced technology, we would have an outward shift or upward shift of production possibility frontier. Suppose that we have a point F located outside the original production possibility frontier. After economic growth, such point would be attainable. Okay, let's draw it one more time without economic growth. Suppose we have point F located outside our production possibility frontier. This point at this situation is not attainable because it's located outward our capabilities or our limits. So with economic growth, the boundary or the production possibility frontier would shift outside, which means that the location of F would be attainable. It's not just attainable, it's not even efficient. Efficient allocation of scarce resources will be located on the new production possibility frontier, which means that efficiency is far beyond the location of point F. ده كده يا جماعة البرودكشن possibility frontier. شكرا جزيلا لحضراتكم، أتمنى تكونوا استفدتوا، وإن شاء الله أشوفكم في فيديو جديد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.